All right. Thank you. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 13th meeting of the Marshalltown Rotary Club. I'm going to ask Dan Veliga to come up and lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Good afternoon, everybody. If you would please bow your heads and hearts. Almighty God, we bow our heads and hearts before you. We give you thanks for all good things of life, for the many opportunities before us. We pray for hearts and minds of humility, but we also pray for discernment and perception, that we would be able to look beyond our needs and see the needs of others and know how to creatively and compassionately respond to them. This we pray in your most holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have any guests today? Any guests on Zoom that you know of? Okay, there being none, student Rotarians. Jackie, did we get lucky this week? Nope, no student Rotarians this week. Okay, next we have a check presentation and Kim Jasper Ramirez will do the presentation.
As I think many of you know, a few of your fellow Rotarians, including me, Linda Havelka and Nancy Steveson, are part of the Long-Term Family Recovery Committee that is still working on the long-term recovery of the tornado from a couple years ago. And we had an opportunity that we thought Rotary could respond to And Rotary still had some funds left over. Our club had funds left over from some donations that were made to us specifically for tornado recovery. So we were very pleased to ask for that donation and get it. Another member of our steering committee, Linda Von Holten, is here to accept the check, and she's just going to tell you a little bit about what the money is going towards.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm Linda Von Holten, as Kim said, and I am the volunteer coordinator for the Central Iowa Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. And I've been on the Long-Term Family Recovery Committee, the steering committee, since the beginning. And we have some very strict guidelines as to where our money goes normally. And we had a family that needed a new fence. It was actually something that they had a daughter with some disabilities, and they really desperately needed this fence. And that is not something that is covered by our normal guidelines. And sorry if you can't see me, but I'm pretty short. So actually this money is going to go towards that fence for that family. And like I said, it's something that's very necessary. So we appreciate so much the fact that you were willing to give this money to help another family in Marshalltown. Thank you very much.
You want to, oh, okay.
Okay. Far enough apart.
Okay, yeah. We can hold it and just move. Okay. She's a photographer.
Yes, she is. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. As I was just saying, the amount of this check is for $1,500. So it's really feels good to be able to help this family in this way. And we thank you, Linda, and also Kim, for serving on the long-term recovery committee. Are there other people in our club that are on that committee? I'm thinking about maybe Carol, huh? Linda Havelka, sorry, and Nancy Stevenson. Oh, okay, great. Very good. We're ready for announcements. First of all, I would like to say that I would like to call a quick board meeting right immediately following this meeting to talk about just a couple of items, so don't forget. Also, we have some updates regarding our members. First of all, I wanted to let you know that B. Niblock, if some of you have not been aware, as I have not, has a long-term health issue that she's dealing with, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for her to get out and attend things, and so she is expecting not to be able to attend Rotary in person in the future. So anyway, I just wanted you to keep her in mind if you're not aware of her situation. Also, I learned today that apparently Sarah Hesmer did experience a stroke quite recently, but she is recovering well, and but I just thought those of you who know Sarah would like to know that she's had this situation for herself. In addition, Nancy Wilson, when I called her last week, she said that while I'm in the hospital in Des Moines, she was recovering from some chemotherapy and is facing some surgery in the future. So we have several members that we need to keep in our thoughts and prayers. The attendance report for last week is that we had 37 members in attendance, 24 in person and 13 on Zoom. I also want to remind you that this Thursday we're hosting a fireside chat from 5 to 6:30 right here at Elmwood. This event is geared for new members and their sponsors, but we really want to encourage all members to attend, especially if you're a member of the board or a member of our new member orientation committee. If you have not yet RSVP'd to Kim, please take care of that so we can know how much food to order and so forth. We'd really appreciate that. Tom McCoy is still soliciting volunteers to help line up programs for us this year. So again, if you feel like you'd be willing to help out on a month, let Tom know. And then in addition, Bob Moore has been our publicity person, writing press releases for us. And he's got a particularly busy semester right now with his teaching at the community college. And so I know that he would appreciate a partner that he could call on in times when he's not able to write those press releases. So if that's something that you'd be willing to do, we want to hear from you. I also wanted to send our condolences to Linda Havelka, whose mother just passed away recently. That's all of my announcements. However, Jim Lawrence was not able to be here, and he's going to be our chair for the Salvation Army bell ringing effort. As you know, we do that every year. We are at Hy-Vee, and the time is November 13th, which is a Friday. And we need 2 people to sign up for each shift, which is an hour from 11 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. So Kim has a little sign-up sheet here, and she'll make sure that it gets started. And if you get that sign-up sheet, please put your name on it and then pass it around to the next table. And if you're at Zoom and are willing to do that, if you can let Kim know in the chat box, that would be great. We'd like to know that. Are there any other announcements? Okay, this is the week where we get to have Rotary news and information, and for the month of October, Deirdre Grundler has agreed to do those reports. Deirdre?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I don't need to stand that close to the microphone. This has been great fun for me to spend a little bit of time with our Rotary magazine. One of the things I discovered today is that you can convert your subscription from in paper to online, and that makes me very happy. So I took care of that. Less paper coming to me is a good thing. There were 2 articles that really caught my attention this time around that I thought I would highlight for you. The first is on Rotary's Positive Peace Academy, which is a free program that any of us could sign up to if we wanted to. There's a nice article on it. The focus of the Positive Peace Academy is on building sustainable peace. And sustainable peace is defined as focusing on the things in your community that are already working, that are already positive, and making them even more positive. So it's not focused on what's not going well or problems that we're having out there in the world. It's what are we already doing well. There are 8 different pillars of positive peace: a well-functioning government, sound business environment, acceptance of the rights of others, good relations with neighbors, free flow of information, high levels of human capital, low levels of corruption, and equitable distribution of resources. And so as I was reading through this, I just kind of got flooded with all the great things that are happening here in Marshalltown, including Raymond Donko leading the effort to get free face masks to so many, especially at the beginning of COVID. The apartment buildings that Joe and Janelle Carter are working on building to have more housing that's attractive for professionals in the community. The Marshall County Arts and Culture Alliance, who's working on their free mural, or the mural program on sidewalks to promote safety, so we don't have another tragic loss of life as a kiddo crosses the street, and much, much, much more, right? A new hospital coming, lots of great things happening with the police department. I think over the last 2 weekends, there has been a celebration of how grateful we are to the police and fire and EMS providers in our town. So good things. Great water quality, could go on and on and on. Things you already know, but me as a newcomer, still learning. But it also brought my attention to another program that's happening in Schaumburg, Illinois, focusing on small scholarships to help Illinois adults build their careers. So the Schaumburg chapter of Rotary applied for an $80,000 grant from the Rotary Global Fund and received it. And they've partnered with their local college. And since 2018, they've given out 21 scholarships to adult students, specifically on a career track. And the article highlighted a woman who's going to become a nurse through that scholarship program that pays for all of her education, all of her books. So I loved the nursing connection because we know we need more nurses. I think healthcare is a great path out of poverty for so many people. And this was a great example of global funds coming to a local community. How's that, Mary? Awesome. See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Now your job is to go home and find those articles. It's time for happy news. Oh, good. Well, I wanted to give a shout out to Abigail, and Kim just told me Abigail is attending by Zoom, but I wanted to congratulate Abigail and her staff at the Times Republican for this recent publication that came out in our newspaper. I was not expecting high gloss pages with beautiful print, and it's a very nicely done magazine, and I think you'll enjoy it. If you haven't looked at it yet, I encourage you to do so. And of course, on page 10, it did mention the Rotary Club helping to distribute food in partnership with the Salvation Army. So it was nice to see our name in print as well. So that's happy news for me. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share? Todd Steinkamp has the news for us.
Thank you, Mary. It hasn't been a big secret that the work on expanding East Merle Hills to the east of Walmart is being done in part to make way for a potential new medical clinic. Representatives from McFarland Clinic confirmed that to the public during a discussion of the new facility with the Marshalltown City Council. The clinic is looking at 9 acres of land for a 3-level, roughly 66,000 square foot center, which would combine the downtown and south side clinic locations. The clinic is looking at a 2022 completion. For its part, the City Council will look to amend its urban renewal plan to provide some tax abatements for the project. An attempt to smoke out an animal left the Chapel United Methodist Church near Green Mountain a pile of rubble yesterday. Someone tried to use a smoke bomb to chase the animal out. Instead, the building caught fire, and it took at least 7 fire crews to put out the fire and make sure the blaze didn't spread to nearby fields. State officials have announced low-income Iowa households may be eligible for up to $2,000 to help pay overdue utility bills. Under this new program, Iowans who have had a pay cut or lost their job due to COVID are eligible. The money will go directly to their utility company to pay off electric, natural gas, or water bills. By August, Iowa households had racked up nearly $30 million worth of unpaid electric and gas bills from nearly 185,000 customers. Applications may be submitted now to the Iowa Economic Development Authority for the new $2,000 grant. So a bug that's common from Iowa all the way to the East Atlantic Ocean and south to the Gulf of Mexico is poking at us this time of year. It's called the minute pirate bug. When they land on your bare or exposed skin, they poke you with a little beak to see if you're food. And when you're not, they give up. But in the process of poking you, it does hurt, and some people actually do report a rash. The pirate bug does not transmit illnesses to humans. Insect repellents have found to not work against this bug, so the best defense for humans is to wear long sleeve shirts, jeans, or pants, socks, and shoes. They say probably by November these bugs will disappear. Tradition will stand this year as the Iowa and Nebraska football teams will play each other the day after Thanksgiving. The Big Ten Conference says the matchup between the Hawkeyes and the Huskers will be Friday, November 27th in Iowa City. Before the COVID-19 pandemic caused delays in the Big Ten season, Iowa was to finish the year with Wisconsin, while Nebraska was to play Minnesota on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Iowa's game against Minnesota will also be on a Friday. The Hawkeyes will play the Golden Gophers in Minneapolis on November 13th. No kickoff time for the Iowa-Nebraska game has been announced. Finally, a dentist told a mother, "I'm sorry, madam, but I'll have to charge you $100 for pulling your boy's tooth." The mother explained, $100? You said it was only $20. Yes, replied the dentist, but he yelled so loudly that it scared off 4 of the patients out of the office.
Tom McCoy will introduce our program.
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon, Rotarians. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lance Van Gundy. He moved here as a puppy. He was a first grader, he told me, in 1974. And he didn't put this in his bio, but I think I met them at Gilmer's at the mall. and he was working there trying to chase the young lady he married. Is that correct? Aha. So his wife wasn't introduced earlier, but Kristen is here. His wife's with him, so we're glad to have you too, Kristen. Lance graduated from MHS in 1987. He went on to Cornell College in Mount Vernon, graduated in 1991 with a degree in biology and anthropology. He attended medical school at one of the better schools in the country, University of Iowa. And then he went to Northern Iowa Mercy Health Center and came back to Marshalltown in 1998. Correct? Got that right so far. He is the current medical director of ER. He's been the medical director there for 19 years, all but 1 year. I don't know, whatever that sabbatical or whatever. He's served on the board of directors of McFarland Clinic. He's a member of the Unity Point Foundation Board. Is that correct? All right, good. He's the current medical staff president of Unity Point Hospital here in Marshalltown. His extracurricular activities, I love this. He plays guitar, fantasy novel writing, and you have your first book published, I think. Right? Yeah? And sheep doodle anything. I don't know what that means. And leadership development. And last but not least, he loves to do whatever his wife tells him to do or sets her mind to. I got it in writing, Kristen. So let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Lance Van Gundy.
Thanks, Tom. This was a strange talk to prepare. How many other, I'm just curious, speakers in this line have you had already this summer? One a month or one a week, or how often are you all meeting? Well, I look for some direction from Tom, because usually when I'm asked to speak, it's all about hospital and COVID business these days. We can certainly talk about that if people have questions, because I know it's the thing affecting us all uniformly. But he said, no, we just kind of want to hear your story. And we hung up the call, and it wasn't until earlier this week when I thought, that's kind of a strange thing to prepare a talk for. Nobody's ever asked me to do that. So I thought to try and throw in some pertinent history, because so many folks know my parents, and of course, you know, they are indelibly left an impact in my life. And but at the end, if we have questions or people want to talk about other things, it doesn't all have to be about what's on the slides. And raise your hand if you have any questions. This picture was taken with my brother-in-law. He's an amazing guy who, probably the thing I love about him the most is he's always questing to find some new adventure in life. And so he drugged my youngest daughter and I and some like-minded people on a trip to Peru. And this was the end of a terrible day of hiking. But we got through it and took a picture at this lake at the bottom of a glacier. And it's one of my favorite moments of life. And go ahead and advance to the next one. I don't think the clicker's working. So if any of you are fans of the show Ozark, which I think is on Netflix, you know, they always give you something at the beginning, the 4 pictures to look for. And so some of these motifs will come up a little later, but I call this my Ozark picture. So you can go ahead and go on to the next one. I love this saying, you know, but this is absolutely true. I couldn't find the high school graduation picture I had, but I had that exact same haircut as Dad. And if you go on to the next picture, that's my mother in the middle. So both Mom and Dad were part of, you know, in the 60s in college, if you could sing and play guitar, you'd often get in a group, and that's actually how they met. We're competing in different groups at Kansas Wesleyan. So, you know, I inherited that passion, if you will, from both of them, but go ahead and advance. And there's a picture of them right as we had moved back to Marshalltown. So that's young Dr. Milt Van Gundy, the family doc, and Jenny Van Gundy, who I think was still working as an OB nurse back in the day. And that's my oldest sister, Tiffany, in the foreground, but go ahead and advance. So sometimes MD really equals, you know, Mom and Dad's descendants. And this is the 4 of us. living out in the country. I think I was about 11 in that picture as the oldest. Jason would have been about 8, and then Tiffany was probably 5 and Mindy was 1. And there'll be more pictures of them aging as the talk goes on, but go ahead and advance. So I was a prodigy of Hoagland Elementary right here in town, and did the normal things, if you can advance, that kids in town did. Some of you might recognize Paul Peglow on the left there. He was our coach. These are all classmates of mine. I know if anybody knows Michael Nussbaum, he works in the medical system in Nevada. That's him sitting right next to the coach. But go ahead and advance. And then I attended Lenahan back in the day. All the students went through elementary school through 6th grade, and then there were 3 junior highs. There was Miller Junior High, Lenahan, and Anson Junior High, and that was 7, 8, 9. And that was right about the first time I met my wife. We dated for like 2 weeks when I was in 7th grade. And I always give her a ribbing that she sent one of her friends down right before a science test to tell me that we were through, that she quit me. But I stuck around, so I got her back later. Anyway, go ahead and advance. This tractor had a big impact in my life, but I didn't realize at the time. So we lived in the country, and we used to have a wood-burning fireplace. And my brother and I, it was our job to load these 5-foot-long logs into the back of a trailer, not too dissimilar from that one. And I don't remember why, but my father had asked me to unhitch the tractor and maybe mow or do something, just try not to hurt anybody with it. And I was a big tough kid at age 12, so I thought I could unhitch the tractor by myself. And the hitch ended up being a lot heavier than I thought, and I dropped it on my toe. And I got a big cut on the top of my foot, which really actually didn't hurt very much. But what I remember being petrified by was I was in the fall, and I was in the Marshalltown Football League. I played for the Saints, and I was our kicker. How in the world was I going to finish my job with this big cut on my foot? And I think I had a complete dramatic hissy fit like most 12-year-old boys do. Well, Dad took me down to his office at the time, numbed up the cut, sewed it up, and I still played in the game. And when people ask me why I went into medicine, that story probably, at the time I didn't realize it, probably was the thing that impacted me the most, because I remember thinking it was really pretty cool that he could do that for his family. And I think I always just knew I would be able to do that. Kids these days, they have so many different pathways forward. Really, whatever their imagination is what their life will bring them. But, in the 1970s and 80s, you sort of said, well, I'm going to do what my parents did. And so I wasn't really actually very imaginative. My wife and I were talking the other day about how I ended up kind of taking this pathway, and it didn't require any imagination at all. I sort of looked at my dad. He was this ordinary guy. I was going to do what he did and just show up and work hard, and that's kind of was the model. That this old Alice Chalmers tractor and trailer had something to do with that. So why don't we go ahead and move on? So then I attended MHS and graduated in 1987, and was active, go ahead and advance, in theater. And these are just some of our friends around that age group. Go ahead and advance. Got to be part of Godspell and Music Man, and one of the still the amazing things about a high school Marshalltown size is you can do more than one sport. You can participate in 2 or 3 things at once, and certainly that applied to me. I was active in music and football. And go ahead and advance. And then in my senior year, I met this lady again, and we pretty much have been, well, I always say I stuck around long enough, and she finally got tired of pushing me away and just gave up. And so we've been inseparable ever since. So go ahead and advance. And this was college, and she hates that picture with her hairdo, but I get my revenge every now and then. Go ahead and advance. Then I attended Cornell College from 91 to 95, and this was a visit back to that campus. Go ahead and advance. And back in the 80s, we had a different set of styles like tight roll jeans, and leather jackets, and big hair product. Go ahead and advance. I played football, and was lucky enough in my senior year on the right to have my brother join me, and we got to play on offense at the same time, and that was fun. Go ahead and advance. And then this is, so most people these days aren't getting married in college. Kristen and I were a little bit ahead of our time. We got married after my sophomore year of college. in her junior year, and that's our engagement and wedding picture. And I did have hair once back in the day, but go ahead and advance. Sang a lot of songs, had a lot of fun, and my brother and I would sing at different folk music events through college and even after college. And that's just a reflection of that. So go ahead and advance. Then, as Tom referenced, I went to the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics for med school, was there from 91 through 95, and had a great time, really loved that community, and we still enjoy going back to Iowa City on occasion. Go ahead and advance. Yeah, maybe that's what MD should stand for, is my dependence on hair product, because that's my med school graduation picture on the right. We used to joke that I could give Luke Perry a run for his money with the hair, but go ahead and advance. This is the hospital in Mason City, and there's on the upper right of that, just across the street, is a small white house, and we lived there for 3 years and carved out our niche with friends that were going through the same awfulness that residency was back at that time. Then subsequent to that, go ahead and advance, came back to Marshalltown. And this is a picture taken outside the ER with one of our early ER groups. I believe that was in 2001 or 2, but I've been the director of the EMS group along with the ER pretty much since about the year 2000, and I've never regretted a moment of that. Those are a fantastic group of people, and we always have new challenges. And of course, today's world, COVID is no different, but go ahead and advance. And when we moved back to Marshalltown, we had our third daughter. That's what this picture was supposed to be. She's the one on the left. In residency, we had, in med school, we had the first two. And so those are our three beauties that we're pretty proud of. Go ahead and advance. So this was taken in the ER before we had a small remodel, if you will. And one of the things you'll notice as you go on to the next picture is nobody's wearing any masks. Milt, dad joined me for about 10 years in the ER before slowing down to the wound clinic. And that was a time where we were passing off patients at shift change. And I don't remember if I was giving him the raspberries or he was giving it to me, but we had a pretty fortunate, unique relationship between father and son that I'll carry with me forever. Go ahead and advance. Ross Huffman there, it's on the bottom right. He's been a long-term partner of mine, and we've got 3 or 4 other young docs joining us now. Go ahead and advance. Of course, we've had our share of struggles like the rest of Marshalltown. If you look really closely at the picture on the bottom right, that was taken after the tornado went through, and you can see that the building on the right side is missing most of its roof and wall there. We actually took care of a lady who lived in that apartment. And then, of course, the courthouse got damaged. I think the picture on the left is actually, might be from the derecho. Somebody snapped that. But that was really impressive, that wall cloud that was coming across. And I happen to be on shift for both of those, so I don't know if I'm the black cloud or the bad luck or what that is, but go ahead and advance again. This was us getting ready. The derecho had come through, and we had some rumor that there were going to be a lot of patients. So this was the team getting ready to receive a lot of ambulances. And I thought, I'll snap that really quick, but go ahead and advance. And this is what life looks like today, which is really different. So before I even get out of the car, I put on an N95 mask, which is the one that you see in the middle picture. It's that kind of duckbill thing, and you feel like you're sucking air through a straw after you've had that on for a while. But when we know for sure somebody's got COVID, I'll just put that gown on the right side, the whole biohazard suit, because it's easier for people to see your face, and they're scared. And if you're going to be talking to them about end-of-life issues or big things, it's nice to not have your face be covered, or particularly if you're also dealing with kids. They get a little spooked if they see you with a mask and they can't read your facial expression. The other thing we found is, and I can relate to this too. I mean, I wear hearing aids, but dealing with anybody who's got a mild hearing impediment, you completely have removed half of the cues that they use to identify with you. So a lot of times we're just switching to the biohazard suit on the right, which is called a PAPR. And it's noisy and it has its drawbacks, but it keeps everybody safe and it allows us to engage a little more socially with folks. Go ahead and advance. you know, medicine is change, and so these are pictures, of course, of the new campus on the top, and then on the bottom is a rendering of what we are just now breaking ground with the new ER and the new medical surgical unit, which will be basically on the south side of the current campus out there. Go ahead and advance. There's a groundbreaking ceremony on the top, but the picture on the bottom gives a little bit of a clue for what the inside of the ER might look like, with really generous sized rooms and a nice workflow for both patients and families to be able to come in and access care. Go ahead and advance. These are my diversions. We used to be Vizsla owners, and that's a dog that we had for 16 years, which is crazy in Vizsla years. We decided when we had to say goodbye to him, we decided to go with the Sheepadoodle because they don't shed at all, and we've not had any regrets. That's been our latest obsession. He's our son, if you will. And that's me holding him on the right, but go ahead and advance. Zeno's Pizza is, of course, always a diversion. When Jan Cluck owned that, still, I used to tell Jan that when I died, I was counting on her to come through for me. I wanted her to be saving some used Zeno's Pizza boxes to line my coffin, to take that with me to the afterworld. The other joke we had in my house, I used to live about, I don't know, 3 miles south of town, and it was just impossible for me to get home without reaching in and grabbing one corner, because all the really good flavor and grease run to the corner pieces, if you didn't know that. But go ahead and advance. It wouldn't be a Marshalltown talk without mentioning Zeno's. You know, one of the things, Kristen and I have become empty nesters, and so we've kind of given ourselves permission to follow pursuits, and one of my non-medical pursuits is fantasy novel writing, and this is something that I put together and released this year, and so if anybody's looking for some very light, casual reading over the holiday season, you can find that on Amazon, but go ahead and advance. But this is the stuff that really matters to me. This picture was taken of us last year, and go ahead and advance. And that was a trip to Seoul, South Korea, which if anybody has a chance to go post-COVID, I'd recommend it. Go ahead and advance. And this was in Alabama just this past year with our crazy family. So people that know my siblings, Jason is the guy plugging his nose on the far left. Tiffany and Mindy are kind of in the middle and the right, and mom and dad are their humorous selves. But this is the family I grew up in. So, you know, if I were in your shoes and the doctor was up talking, I think people would want to know, questions about COVID. And I won't talk about that too long unless people have questions. Specifically, it dawns on me, I was taking care of a young man just a few nights ago and sewing up a laceration, and a fairly intelligent guy, and he just blew me away when he said he thought the whole thing was a conspiracy. And I wanted to jab him with a needle with no lidocaine just to get his attention, but I didn't. I appreciate people social distancing and wearing their masks in between. And unfortunately, it is a real virus, and it's just so unpredictable. The hardest thing about it is it's really turned our perception of how to predict illness on its ear. So I can see 10 people that have coronavirus, and half of them might not even know they have it and have symptoms. And then randomly, 1 or 2 are just going to get super ill. And it's funny to examine them because we've kind of got a triad of people. If it's somebody who's just at rest, breathing really fast with a low oxygen level, but their lungs sound clear as a bell, that's coronavirus until proven otherwise. It causes the weirdest presentation of illness. And the thing I think, if we go back to, I'm a numbers guy, if you just look at the numbers, we know influenza kills maybe 1% of the people. It just affects so many people. The reason coronavirus is more devastating is our numbers, of course, are ticking up, but it kills about 3% of our friends and neighbors and family members. And so we just have to be patient with each other, give each other grace. Everybody's going to deal with coronavirus in their own way, and there's not a right way. I totally understand that we are social creatures, and when we take that away, that raises a whole nother level of stress for all of us. And so some people are going to process that stress differently than others. But it is a real problem, and you hear people on the news say, we'll get through it together, and I really do believe that, so handle each other with grace, and that's about the only way we can move forward. But that's my story. I don't know, Tom, if that's what you're looking for. Does anybody have any questions about the hospital or emergency services or coronavirus? It's okay if you don't, but if not, I'll step down. Sure. So, yeah, the hospital is not the same that it was even 3 years ago. I was telling Tom, our hospital is sort of on the front edge of a tidal wave that's starting to affect hospitals our size, where because of financial constraints, you're going to have different service lines close. So, and I'll try not to make this too complicated. If you go back into the 1980s, and you'll have family members who've had their gallbladder out that are older than 70, if you look at their scar on their abdomen, it's a foot-long scar. It starts in the middle and it goes clear over here by their kidney. When you had that major surgery, they had to cut through layers of muscle, and just the pain control alone for that major surgery usually required a day or two in the ICU, and then another 2 or 3 days in the hospital to wean off of morphine onto your oral pain medicine. And then you finally got to go home around day 5 or 6. And that's a pretty common surgery. Well, so insurance companies would pay a lot of money to get your gallbladder out, and that meant hospitals built big brick and mortar institutions and big ICUs. And with technology and advances in medicine, now 99% of people are getting their gallbladder out with a laparoscope technique, which is a 1 or 2 puncture wounds with a camera. The gallbladder comes out and you're home usually within 24 hours. And so, that model of how we more efficiently handle certain procedures affects everything from orthopedics. A knee surgery used to be in for 3 to 5 days. Now you're home in sometimes the same day for a knee arthroscopy. And so insurance companies stopped paying for the inpatient care that they used to. And it just took different areas of the country time to have that permeate and sink in and affect them. But there's just very little incentive financially to use an ICU when maybe you would have 1 patient stay in there at a time, but you're paying a monitor tech, a secretary, 2 nurses to be on standby. The sad thing is the same thing happened to our cath lab. And we were not the only hospital to have this happen also. We were keeping staff on call 24/7 to be able to come in and attend to life-threatening heart attacks, but we were calling them in sometimes only once every 3 to 4 weeks, and you just can't financially justify that. And so we've become a commonplace finding that you're seeing in a lot of hospitals in rural America, where we almost sort of feel like we're an OB desert, an ICU desert. In fact, right now we don't have inpatient pediatrics either. We may get that back. And we may not, but it definitely really affects my world, because we've had to now wear a lot more hats. In fact, I just had our first delivery since we lost OB services about 2 weeks ago, and that went fine. But probably not the story I told my wife when I came home. I think I grumped about it and had quite the adrenaline rush. The one thing we are expanding are the quality and vastness of our ER services. So we've got 5 full-time ER doctors. We've got just that many mid-levels. And right now our volumes are down because of coronavirus. Our staffing is deliberately curbed back to cover cost accounting a little bit, but when the volume we expect returns, we'll go back to routine staffing. So we'll keep things in the hospital that the hospitalist and the nurse practitioners can manage. A routine appendicitis, a routine gallbladder, can stay a simple pneumonia, cellulitis, but if you start needing a lot of ancillary services like a kidney specialist or your cancer doctor or a heart doctor to be intimately involved with the care, then we don't have those really available anymore. And so those are the patients that we're transferring. But we keep what we keep that is safe, and the other stuff we try to get people to sort of maintain a continuity with their care providers and get them down the road. It's a different world than it was who knows what it'll be like 3 years from now. Everything changes. Anything else?
Totally with your book, I've always had affinity for authors and people who write. How long did you have the idea for that book?
Oh.
And how long did it take to write?
So that's a funny question. One of my characters was initially named Calbrin, and my wife and I thought that name was really cool, so we named our youngest daughter Calbrin, and she's 21. So I started kicking around ideas for that book a long time ago. I was a Dungeons and Dragons geek. Tom Foley and his boys and I all grew up together. So the Foley boys would come over with one of my other friends, Bill Eatonson. My dad was our game master. And, we would just play this imaginary game around a table with dice and pencils. And we would start the bowl full of M&Ms, and we'd start literally at like 10 in the morning. Maybe we'd take a break for pizza, and we would play till about 2 in the morning. Man, who does that with their kids anymore these days? But those experiences shaped me, and so I always had I think I always had an interest to write. One thing I didn't talk about in my education was I got really lucky. I bounced into a few English teachers along the way that were just really powerful, good teachers, both in high school and college. And one of the things I didn't realize at the time that they were doing was teaching you how to write well and how to express your ideas well. So I probably started writing that stuff about 20, 21 years ago, but I didn't really get serious about it until maybe 2.5 years ago. And I had what looked like a book, but was awful. And I sent it to an editor at the Iowa Writers Workshop. I just needed some direction, and she was great. She said, stop writing and just read. You need to read all the material that's popular in the genre, so you kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. And that was really good advice. And then found a second editor, and that's a steep learning curve, learning how to publish, if anybody has done that, and then finding a cover artist. And now that I've done it once, I'm hoping round 2 will be a lot easier, but it was a work in progress, sort of like my life. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was great to get to know you as a person much better. So great idea, Tom. Thanks for coming. Next week, our program is going to be Chief Mike Tupper. So that should be a very interesting, I think it will be done as a conversation. And Todd, are you going to be interviewing him? So bring your friends and be sure to come to that meeting. And I neglected to say, Dr. Van Gundy, that in honor of all of our speakers this year, our club makes a donation to Polio Plus and the worldwide effort to eradicate polio. And so this donation is also matched 2-to-1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So you've helped us have a part in that worthwhile effort. Please rise and join me in the 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? We are adjourned.